Picture this. You're getting ready for an important dinner with old friends you haven't seen in years. You try on 5 different outfits, standing in front of the mirror thinking, this doesn't look right. You change again. You're running late because nothing feels quite right. When you finally arrive, you spend the entire evening wondering if you said something awkward, if your laugh sounded forced, if they really wanted you there, or if they were just being polite. Does this sound familiar? That little voice whispering, "You're not enough," isn't unique to you. Today, I'm going to show you exactly where this feeling comes from, and more importantly, how to silence it once and for all. Let me share something that happened to me 3 years ago that completely changed my perspective. I was presenting to the board of directors at my company, a presentation I'd been preparing for months. I had all the data, perfect slides, and I'd rehearsed it countless times in my home office. But when I walked into that boardroom filled with executives, some twice my age with decades more experience, my mind went completely blank. I stammered, my face turned red, and all I could think was, I'm a complete fraud. They're all going to realize I have no idea what I'm doing here. You know what happened next? The presentation was a resounding success. I got the promotion I'd been working toward for 2 years, but I couldn't enjoy it because I was fixated on those few seconds when I stumbled at the beginning. I was 45 years old, successful by any measure, yet I felt like a child playing dress-up in an adult's world. That's when I realized something profound. Our brains are like that toxic friend who always reminds you of your failures but never celebrates your wins. And there's an evolutionary reason for this pattern. Thousands of years ago, if you weren't enough for your tribe, if you couldn't hunt well enough, gather enough, or contribute sufficiently, you'd be cast out and die alone in the wilderness. So our brains develop this hypersensitive alarm system that screams danger every time it perceives potential rejection. The problem is we're living in 2025, not in caves, but our brains are still running on Stone Age software. That's why when someone doesn't text you back immediately, your primitive mind thinks, they're going to kick me out of the tribe, I'm going to die alone. Ridiculous, right? But that's exactly how it works. At our age, this becomes even more complex. We're dealing with what psychologists call the midlife evaluation. That natural tendency to look back and measure our lives against some imaginary standard. We compare our careers to our college roommates, our marriages to what we see on social media, our parenting to some impossible ideal. We wonder if we've achieved enough, if we're successful enough, if we've been good enough parents, partners, friends. Here's where it gets interesting, and this is the plot twist that will change your perspective forever. The feeling of not being enough has absolutely nothing to do with your actual worth as a person. It's just your brain doing its job of trying to keep you safe. It's like having an overly sensitive smoke detector that goes off even when you're just making toast. Let me prove this to you with a thought experiment. Think of someone you deeply respect, maybe a colleague, a mentor, or even a celebrity you admire. Got them in mind? Now I'm going to tell you a secret. That person also feels inadequate sometimes. Einstein thought he was a fraud. Maya Angelou, despite winning countless awards, said she always felt like she was fooling people. Oprah Winfrey has spoken openly about her moments of self-doubt. Even at our stage in life, with all our experience and accomplishments, we still battle this voice. The difference between people who thrive and those who stay stuck isn't that some are enough and others are not. The difference is that some people learn to dance with that inner voice instead of letting it paralyze them. It's like learning to sail. You can't control the wind, but you can learn to work with it. This is particularly crucial for us at this stage of life because we're facing unique challenges. Maybe you're dealing with aging parents while still supporting your own children. Perhaps you're questioning career choices as retirement approaches, or you're navigating changes in your marriage as the kids leave home. Maybe you're facing health issues that make you confront mortality in ways you never had to before. During these transitions, that not enough voice becomes louder. Am I doing enough for my aging mother? Have I saved enough for retirement? Was I present enough when my kids were young? Am I attractive enough as my body changes? These questions are normal, but they can become overwhelming if we don't understand what's really happening. Here's the exact formula I use when that voice appears, and I want you to try this. First, I acknowledge it and say, "Hello, primitive brain. Thanks for trying to keep me safe, but this isn't a real emergency." Second, I ask myself, what would I do if I knew I was enough exactly as I am right now? And third, I do exactly that, even if my hands are shaking. This approach has served me well through some major life transitions. When I was considering a career change at 47, that voice screamed, "You're too old. You don't know enough about this new field." But I applied the formula and made the change anyway. When my teenage daughter was going through a difficult phase and I felt like a failing parent, I reminded myself that being imperfect doesn't mean being inadequate. It means being human. Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody talks about. You're never going to feel completely ready. You're never going to feel 100% sufficient before taking action. The people who accomplish extraordinary things don't wait to feel confident. They act with fear, but act anyway. It's like jumping out of an airplane. The parachute doesn't open because you think about it. It opens because you pull the cord. At our age, we have something younger people don't: perspective. We've survived challenges we once thought would break us. We've made mistakes and recovered. We've experienced loss and found ways to rebuild. This isn't just life experience. It's evidence of our resilience, proof that we've been enough all along. Let me share the final secret that transformed my life. Your worth as a person doesn't depend on your achievements, your bank account, your job title, how your kids turned out, or whether you look the same as you did 20 years ago. Your value is inherent, like a work of art. A Picasso doesn't become less valuable if it's hanging in an empty museum versus a crowded one. Your essence doesn't change based on external circumstances. This perspective becomes even more powerful as we age, because we start to understand what truly matters. The approval we once sought from bosses, peers, even our own parents, becomes less important as we realize that the only opinion that truly matters is our own, and that of the people who love us unconditionally. I've learned to reframe those moments of self-doubt as opportunities for growth rather than evidence of inadequacy. When I feel like I'm not doing enough for my aging father, I remind myself that caring about him deeply is actually proof that I am enough, because someone who was not enough wouldn't worry about these things in the first place. The next time that voice whispers, "You're not enough," remind it that you already are, simply by existing. You've survived 100% of your bad days so far. You've navigated challenges that once seemed insurmountable. You've loved, been loved, made mistakes, learned lessons, and continued growing. That's not just enough, that's remarkable. And if you don't believe me, do me this favor. Act as if you're enough for just 1 week. Just 1 week. You'll see that the world doesn't end. People don't run away screaming. And you might just discover that you've always been more incredible than your primitive mind led you to believe. Your story matters. Your experience has value. Your presence in this world makes a difference, even when, especially when, you can't see it yourself. Tell me in the comments, what's one thing you've been putting off because you didn't feel ready? And if this resonated with you, follow for more content that helps you live with courage and embrace your inherent worth.